Ma. Dude, I don't know why I even
Where did that
said
even
that
come
joke.
from?
I have no clue, bro. My mind
You really
wanders.
were wandering off.
You don't
weren't
understand.
you?
Like, people don't know this, but I actually have ADHD, like hardcore, and I realized that recently, like in the past 2 years, and now I see it. Like, it's quite substantial. Like, I don't know how I didn't see it
Andre,
before.
I hope it's not one of those things where because people said it, you started believing.
No.
Okay.
It's nothing like that.
Well, in that case, I'm glad that you have enough attention to give me the time of day, Andre. It means a lot.
See, part of ADHD, you also have hyperfocus.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I hyperfocus on you, Frodan. All the time.
That's so sweet. It's kind of like you turn your greatest weakness into your greatest strength. How about that? And over on the right, we have from Team Gammania, the Gamma Bears. It's Sen. Sen will be at WCS Shanghai. Don't worry, for all of you Chinese-speaking fans. There are players from China there, as well as Sen, who did win Taiwan, although he placed top 12, which is just falling short of being able to qualify for the Worlds and into more prize money. Sen was still one of the highest placing non-Koreans there. I think he tied a couple of other players. Still extremely good, but just like you said, Andre, ZVP, it's really tough. Sen's been one of those guys who, actually, let's just be honest. He did complain about Protoss for a long time and how his inability to really fare against him. But I feel like nowadays Sen, the metagame hasn't shifted necessarily in his favor. Like, Sen's not the turtley kind of player. He's like the guy who likes to macro, but then be aggressive, be everywhere, likes to be scrappy. Think Sen versus Zenio. Like, that's the stuff that Sen loves doing. Although he's just everywhere.
You know, his life versus MVP, you saw Azurg play very, very hyper-aggressive, I felt, throughout that entire best of 7.
GSL Finals?
Like, yeah, GSL Finals. Life versus MVP. Those two players, like, were constant in their battles, and I feel like Sen can play at that caliber. Not only the amount of aggression put out, but also the skill level.
It's true. And in fact, I think that's what makes everyone knows, that's what makes Life so successful, is that he's so active with his lings, always backstabbing, always counterattacking, always making sure that you're paying attention to your units. If you're not, you lose them. And that kind of like switch aggression, I would say, because sometimes it's like he's capable of playing that passive style. We've seen Life sometimes just sit back and play that macro game. I feel like that kind of switch is what makes him deadly, and I think that's what can make Sen so deadly.
That's very true, actually, because Sen, I think the hardest problem for him, it's not so much that he's bad at all-inning or bad at switching it up, but it's just not his forte. Like, he likes the constant busyness of StarCraft, but I don't think he has like an exceptional, all-in play or exceptional macro play, and that does heavily hinder him, I think, throughout his career. Because when you think of it, your opponent is going to be a little bit more aggressive, but Sen does like to take a macro tone to that. So when you know your opponent's style just so well, you can say, well, I can play a lot of different styles against that. Like, I know aggression is coming, but it's not going to be super all-in, so I don't have to defend up too much, but just defend up enough where I don't take any damage from this harassment, and then just macro from there. And a lot of times people are getting these little tiny advantages just by doing that, and they surge it into a win.
Now we do see MMA double gassing and adding a factory as well. MMA pretty much controlling the map with small marine forces. Could poke here and there, but it seems like Sen's also playing very defensive, going for early queens and gassing rather than taking any kind of quick third. And this is pretty standard as well, taking gasses. Although we've been seeing Zergs go for that early link speed. Like we've been talking about Life a lot. Life loves doing that kind of stuff. Hyun loves doing stuff like that because you get speed out to answer the Hellions. But because Sen knows about the quick command center from MMA, you can kind of scale that back, saying I don't necessarily need speed that quick.
And it's I mean, the size of the map is really a testament to why you don't get speed that early, although Life makes it work time and time again, as you said.
Yeah, I feel like it doesn't really matter.
He kind of defies logic, though. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, he just does his style, and he doesn't care, man. He, just goes, which is something that's so cool. But this is kind of the problem. If someone actually opens up very marine-centric in this beginning stage, it's actually very difficult for you to actually situate your third base super fast, which kind of puts you on two base for quite a long time. You can see how well MMA is microing this out. And he's going to bust out here with 5 Marines left over. Let's look at the units lost tab. You can see 17 to 3. 3 Marines died from that engagement. Whereas 17 units died from.
Yeah, and he got the information he wanted. No quick third from Zerg. Stay on 2 base, saw extra queens spreading creep, so he knows his opponent, he knows Sen committed to some kind of early, I guess, he knows his opponent's gassing to a certain extent and droning like crazy. Either that or he's preparing like a massive attack, but he saw no Zergling speed. So MMA collected lots of information that you can kind of use for himself, and he also is getting his own 3rd command center while transitioning over to pretty standard Banshee play with Cloak as well as reactored Hellions.
That's right, and we can see double upgrades before any lair tech is up here. Even a macro hatchery super, super early. Of course, that's because he took such a delayed 3rd base. He has to put down that macro hatchery, else he's going to be macroing in the 1,000, 2,000 even range. Just because when you rely on Zerglings for so long to be your main focus of spend, you a lot of times have not enough larva to keep up with the income that you have. And that's why you have to put down that macro hatch so fast. But the 3rd base will be put up here in a little bit. The Banshee is going to get over here, but really not do a lot of damage. Sport crawlers are being placed all over the map. I know 3 are in queue. I don't know where the 3rd one is, though. There it is.
Nice drone count here for Sen. Banshee does get to the 30, and he's just going to poke it down. And this Banshee, of course, is just a harass keep. Ooh, Sen does lose that queen. That's actually... Oh, he targeted down the queen with the most energy. That's actually really good from MMA. Now you can see that MMA still just harassing slightly here. But he's making it seem like he's going to go for the Hellion Banshee mech, right? But there's no Hellions controlling the map, so he's just actually just doing a light Marine poke, or light Banshee poke into Marine tank. How do you like this composition for this map? A lot of players have been going mech on the Bristol City.
No, I like it. I think it is overall the better way to go. I always think the larger the map is, the worse mech is going to be, but you know, these Korean players are proving me wrong time and time again.
So position, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the Koreans are just superhuman, but theoretically to me it just doesn't make sense to go mech. Yes, Hellions are super, super good, but when it comes down to it, it's going to be a lot more effective to spread out the Zerg and put drops all over the map and then attack with that huge punch. And it's very hard for a lot of Zergs to appropriately put the units needed to defend against all different locations. Like, it's just not feasible for them to do that on a map so big. That's why Tal'Darim Altar is actually such a bad map for Zerg at super endgame stages. It's because a lot of times Protoss and Zerg, or excuse me, Protoss and Terrans are able to just spread out the Zerg so substantially that it just swings over into their favor. Else they're gonna lose, like, well, yeah, it swings into their favor. That's all.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Although well, who knows, man? I mean, MMA is the guy that loves mid-game aggression, especially before infestors come out to the field. Sen, of course, sticking to mutas. Again, I think Sen also just likes that ability to kind of poke here and there, and just likes massing a bunch of units. Loves the mass kind of muted-ling, Baneling style as well. In I guess almost any style. He does it sometimes in ZVZ as well. Although now MMA has a pretty strong core army. He's got a lot of Marines, although he's finishing up combat shields in +2/+2, inevitably setting up for timing. But he's doing kind of things that we've been seeing, Andre, where he's poking out before 2-2, a little unconventional time where Zergs aren't used to, because they're saying, I usually have a couple more minutes. Why are you moving out at 12.5 minutes right
yeah,
now?
no matter what, this is going to force out Banelings. Banelings actually detracts from a lot of mutas. Every 4 Banelings is a single muta, so that actually limits the mobility of the Zerg quite substantially. So I love these premature timings, but really MMA, look, his positioning is right outside of the creep. It's to kind of bait and say, okay, if you really want to attack off creep, I am willing to oblige to that. But if you're not, I'm going to pick off a couple of creep tumors, force you to make Banelings because you don't know if it's going to be a timing or not, and I win either way. So I love this premature 2-2 timing. It actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and now Sen has a lot of Zerglings. Just one Banshee, running straight into a Spore Crawler. MMA does pay attention to it, but now the 2-2 timing is upon us. MMA just has a few more seconds before, but at the same time, Baneling speed should be able to finish by then, as well as +1 flyer attacks, which helps a lot more than you think. Banelings have been discovered. Marines pick off a few, and those Banelings could be valuable. You never know. A few more Banelings can just change the tide of battles if it just lands on a couple Marines.
That's right. 30 more Zerglings in queue at this point. Mutas are actually being brought back to deal with this one single Banshee that's actually being so troublesome. But great positioning, and here we go.
Sen coming in for the flanks. Baneling speed isn't done yet, but he has to go now because that's the perfect time before the tanks can move up. Marines are cutting back off creep. This is what MMA tried to set up for, but he doesn't have enough units to handle it. The Zerglings are on 2-2, and +2 just finished for Terran. MMA was not prepared for it. And, Sen is complaining a little bit about lag. Both of them are playing on the Korean server. Sen not paying attention to his Mutalisks.
Not
Yikes.
good. Wow. But you know what, 66 Lings were in production there, and they pop immediately. This is the most powerful part about Ling, Baneling, Muta, your counterattacks. If you win a fight, you can actually just take the win immediately just because of overrunning your opponent is so easy. MMA doesn't look like he has a lot, even though I felt like the battle was decent. The main reason why he lost that was he wasn't able to actually congregate all of his units. He had a lot of units actually still in his base in queue, whereas, of course, Sen had all of his units right there. On top of that, the siege tank count was pretty low. And I feel like these battles, I've been doing it in my ladder games, where I go 3 factories, 2 of which have siege tanks or tech labs on it. The other one actually has a reactor, and you need to actually deal with those Zerglings a little bit more efficiently. I wouldn't mind trading out, 2 Marines here for a single Hellion just to clear up those Zerglings. Because honestly, like, Zerglings are just so efficient against this army. It's actually crazy. A lot of times you have these, oh gosh, this dropship.
The dropship is very close. Doesn't manage to escape though. Very nice.
But these compositions, these Marines just need so much time to actually do damage against those Zerglings, and when you're running from Banelings, you really don't have the capabilities to do that. That's why you need that burst damage from those Hellions.
Well, we'll see if MMA is prepared for another attack at the 3rd base. Sen is maxed. MMA is nowhere near that, but he needs to be able to get some good Marine splits. Has to dodge the Banelings. Tanks are trying to get into position. MMA with good flanks on the Marines, also from the north, able to take out almost everything, and this time MMA stabilized a lot better, although the 3rd base has been taken care of. And that's going to hurt. MMA does have a planetary at the 4th base, but it's also reduced mining base, only 6 patches instead of 8. And especially since he lost one of his 3 orbital commands, that's just 1/3 less mules. That's all a great attack by Sen. Needs to start transitioning to Hive, which is already something that he's started, as well as thinking about a 5th base. This is a great play from Sen.
Sen is so far ahead, and I love this. You guys might be wondering, why didn't he take his his 7th and 8th gases? It's because you actually want a lot of minerals in this build. Your real advantage is going to be just remaxing with that, 60, 70, 80, 90. I've even seen Sen go up to 120 Zerglings, all off of just a remax after a huge battle, and then just using all those Zerglings to basically sweep your opponent away. Similar to how, you get 30 gateways in TVP, but here we go. Big engagement yet again. Zerglings crashing. They're not doing nearly as much damage this time.
Yeah, they don't
around,
have Banelings this time to really support and force the Marines to split. They can kind of clump and reduce the ability for Zerglings to do anything. And that's kind of the opposite effect.
76 Baneling, or excuse me, 76 Zerglings in queue right now.
24 Banelings.
24 Banelings. That's still very, very intimidating.
Let's see what MMA can scrap together here. He does have +3 finished, and that's going to make him super effective against the 2-2 Zerglings and Banelings. And the flyer gear pace is at 0. It's just pure Muta attack. Sen going for all kinds of aggression. He's only coming from one angle, though, no flank. And this is a great spread from MMA as long as he can get his Marines into good splits off the creep as well. More reinforcements coming in from the south. The tanks frantically trying to shoot everything down. And MMA has more than enough to kind of hold here. But he did lose a lot of tanks. MMA supply is not that strong considering he's still on 3 base. And the 3rd base is really weak in terms of the mineral count. But if he can take out this 4th base, Sen will be the one struggling for resources as well.
That's right, Frodan. This is a big problem for Sen. He needs to keep his 4th alive, but no, it's going to go down still. MMA is pretty low in economy. Units lost tab showing Sen is actually pretty far behind in units lost. My God, 5,000 resources down, but still MMA is in a tough position because he's mining from a half base, not even a full one. Natural and main base are pretty much mined out. You can see they're just now starting to finish up, so MMA probably has one more attack, and that's about it. He needs to win it, and with all the Zerglings that are out on the field just constantly mining out for this one mineral patcher, at least only the minerals. I feel like Sen's in a fantastic position. He's switching over to Ultras, I do believe. I think he got the Ultra Cavern.
He does have Hive, but I know he doesn't have a Greater Spire. If he has an Ultra Cavern, I haven't seen it on a production tab, Andre.
I thought I did, but I was wrong.
Sen's going to take top left expansion, realizing MMA wants to focus everything on the bottom left. Still has to be kind of cautious, though. This is the difficulty of Abyssal City. Your third and fourth bases are so spread out. No way can MMA concentrate everything on one base. Kind of has to spread his tanks, while Sen's able to kind of sneak that top left expansion instead of the bottom right, because he wants to continue to put on pressure.
Oh, wow, and he's
a lot
just
of
going to dive
banelings.
this.
He's going to just crash directly into the planetary forces and take it out.
Okay, MMA has to go right now. I mean, that's a lot of banelings to lose right there, and you're saying to yourself when you're Terran, okay, this is my best opportunity because my opponent wasted so much on that single planetary fortress. I'm not actually going to yield that many more minerals after this, so let's go ahead and push. But MMA, is he going to be passive here?
I don't know. He did unsiege his tanks.
Okay.
And it would serve him good. I think you said, Andre, perfectly, because there's a lot of banelings that was invested into the attack. You're giving time for Sen to kind of compile his resources and be able to funnel it into more efficient things. He's going to have +3 as well.
Wow.
And MMA...
so MMA is just going to take the loss, saying, okay, I'll just play later. I think that's incorrect.
He's pushing out as well, just a little bit late.
Yeah, but when you give your opponent a minute and a half to actually react, I mean, that baneling count can be
especially if there's a lot of units that are not in position, because these banelings are on the top. They have the high ground. They can see everything, and more banelings are morphing as well. MMA does not see that ramp. If he had that watchtower, maybe a different story. MMA wants to take out this expansion as fast as he can. Marines are poking in, but he wants to bait it straight into the siege tank. They're all clumped up as well. Ooh, it's off Crete, though. Sen has to be very cautious.
Oh, yeah. His banelings are going ahead and joining up with the rest of the army. But MMA only has this one base. This is really, really tough. I think Sen can do a lot of counterattacking opportunities. But I think Sen realizes, you know what, no, I'm just going to focus on this one last battle because I know it's just so important. This is going to determine everything.
Well, he's got 52 banelings. That's a lot of gas. He's making more mutalisks. No direct hive units at all. A lot of Zerglings are streaming in without the banelings. And now here comes the banelings. Can MMA hold off here? The front tanks are surely going to die.
Oh.
Can he split enough off creep? Sen's pretty committed to this. He can't really turn back now. He's got to go for it. Sen, does he have the amount of banelings he needs to crush everything? MMA running up the ramp with a good split, but all of his medevacts have died as well. And MMA, he's running out of resources, down to just one base, really. And
wow.
Sen did, I think he traded cost efficiently enough.
Yeah, he did.
I think to be able to win.
Because these mutas are still on the map. And with these mutas, he can actually harass the third base. And what can MMA actually do? Does he defend against this base? Well, if he defends, you're basically giving up all forms of aggression. You cannot actually go onto the map and start threatening, you know, your opponent's fourth base or the fifth base, which is even worse.
Oh, he picks off a dropship as well. Oh. So that, like, MMA was trying to see if he can solve the situation by sending out dropships, but now MMA's moved his main orbital command to his fourth base, and he's very, very, very thin in terms of his defenses. Yeah. And he's also crowding all of his SCVs in one base.
You know, and one of the best ways to actually deal with the Muta-Zerg Baneling army is to actually try to get as much map control as possible. You got to clear out these overlords and then go for back attacks at the same time as the Mutas are actually doing damage, because your Marines just sitting there at, you know, a base is going to do far more damage, to the point where you know, it doesn't matter what happens with the Mutas, Zerglings, Banelings in the main army. You can actually kind of recover just by the fact that you've killed an opponent's base.
Oh, MMA doesn't know about this massive units. He thought everything was moving towards the northern half, but there's a lot of SCVs. Those are the last remnants of the economy of MMA, and the Mutas are also targeting the orbital command as well. Thor trying to work onto it. SCVs are repairing as fast as they can. The Marines are baiting out the Banelings as well. They need to run for cover. High ground advantage is significant, but MMA doesn't have enough units. The macro of Sen is just way too strong for MMA because he hasn't been able to keep up in production. The orbital command is so low, and the last snipe, MMA is officially on 2 orbital commands and half a mining base because he's got 6 mineral patches, Andre. 8,000 minerals is all he's got to work with at best. No, he's been able to mine out most of it already. Half of that, he's only got 4,000 left.
Yeah, Zerglings are going to string in a look at this. I mean, Sen is on top of the world right now. There's nothing that can really stop him. Again, maintaining his meter count, and he's actually adding to that. So 5 meters are going to be added there. He's going to do one last attack to the 5th base, but Frodan, there's just so many Zerglings.
I feel like Sen has to be cautious at the same time, too, because he's running low on resources, and he doesn't have a transition.
Oh, but there's more Marines and Siege Tanks that are going to join up here. Potential good splashes, but no, it's going to be too much. MMA loses his tanks, and that's going to do it. Frodan, GG gets called out.
Oh, very tightly contested, but Sen takes game number 1, and a typical Sen for fashion, man. He just likes playing the exciting kind of style of StarCraft, which is always refreshing to see. But imagine, like, Sen didn't have Pathogen Gas prepared, even though he had Hive, and he didn't have a Greater Spire. He had 2.5 gas banked. If he didn't have the transition prepared and he ran out of resources, he may not have enough minerals to really prepare for a Hive switch. So he was playing on thin ice too. And if MMA held out long enough, maybe the Marine tanks would be too cost efficient. But it was a battle of mid-game compositions, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool and entertaining to watch.
Definitely. I just had like the sickest. Okay, my ADD is working up. I'll tell it after. I'll tell it after the commercial break.
All right, thank you so much to Epson, #1 projector brand worldwide. Check them out at epson.com. While we take a quick break and get ready for game number 2 between Sen and MMA. What's going to happen? We don't know, so find out right after this break.